So we're talking about, and we talked about it last time, we're talking about it this time, the things that we're doing, the things that our channel and our ecosystem needs to do to transition their business to the contemporary opportunity that Jay, you spoke about. Are we doing enough? There's, there'll be 450 next year in that software stack. Are those channel SaaS players and all of us who are trying to inform the traditional channel to pivot, are we doing enough?
No. So most of the 183 companies are focusing on where we've been, which is a transactional based channel, allowing vendors at scale to run gold, silver, bronze programs and 100 program elements that all get anchored on the financial transaction. When you go and look at Microsoft, who's bringing on 7,500 new partners every single month, and 80% of them are non-transacting, most of this tech stack gets neutered because they don't know how to do attribution. They don't know how to do these non-transacting, non-financial programs. So I have a new category last year, with 18 companies, and then this year with 36 companies called ecosystem tech. And almost every day we're seeing new news. Yesterday, one of the companies, Tackle.io, who, by the way, helps you get on marketplaces, just got invested by $35 million by Anderson Horowitz and Bessemer. You know Anderson as the company, PE, that backed every company that your kids know today. Facebook, Twitter. They've chosen every winner for the last 20 years. They took a small company with 60 people in Buffalo, in the US, and basically anointed them a winner because of that 17% we're calling that's going to go marketplace. 17% of $3.5 trillion. Every one of the 10,000 vendors are going to have to get on AWS and Microsoft and Google and Salesforce and IBM and Oracle and SAP and about 20 super winning marketplaces. None of them distribution, by the way, today.
Yep.
They have to get on the 20 winning marketplaces. That's all Tackle does, is goes and helps you get on all these marketplaces without draining all your development, resources to go do it. So that's a winner out of the 36 companies. There are other companies in there. There's about 10 of them that are growing by triple digits, that are bringing in tens of millions of dollars of private equity attention, that are actually building technology that is forward focused over the next decade. And that's the difference here, is moving out of this linear supply chain and moving into ecosystem tech, where it could be traditional partners, non-traditional. It could be transacting partners or non-transacting. And it's 10 or 100 times the size of your current channel. Last thing I'll say is, last week when IBM committed $1 billion to build out an ecosystem, their channel chief, David LaRose, and partner world is probably not going to get much of that, if any. They're going to put in a new world of, say, how do we go and monetize the 28 years that we've won the patent race? We own the IP for AI and automation and blockchain and quantum, and we've dropped revenue for 7 straight years. The previous CEO just got fired. The new CEO finally got the epiphany, got religion, that the transacting channel is not going to help IBM monetize this mountain of IP that they're sitting on. And if they don't go and start getting the size of channel like Microsoft's doing right now, they're going to, be obsolete in the next decade.
Absolutely.
So Scott, this is the story of ecosystems.
Yeah, Scott, when we talk to vendors about what Jay's talking about, and we do, so I don't want to spend too much time preaching to each other's choir. What I want to do is address the elephant in the room, and that is absolutely what Jay's saying is what we're seeing. But these vendors are more and more reliant on their traditional channel to execute their customer retention and partner retention. And they're telling us, but I'm not seeing it. And what they're also telling us is they think that their value is in marketplaces, but are already commodity. Their value needs to be monetizing the installed base that we already have and transitioning that into where it needs to go. And there are essential tools out there. iasset.com is a clear leader. When I say, are we doing enough? Don't think about it from Scotty, from the terms of we are actually drinking from a fire hose right now, and there's plenty of opportunity. But How do you get from where we are right now to where Jay's talking about, where it becomes ubiquitous?
Well, that's a tough one. I think if you look at some of the large manufacturers we're engaged with at the moment, first of all, they can't see what they can't see. They can't see through the channel. The channel's provided nothing. We've got distributors that don't even track serial numbers. I mean, it's crazy. But the first thing they've got to do is be able to see the base. The second thing is they've got to offer the opportunity to migrate customers, resellers, and ultimately distributors into consumption. And that's where the old school guys like the IBMs and HPs, et cetera, that's why they're moving and why IBM's spending so much money, because they've got to migrate themselves very, very quickly, or to Jay's point, lose the race. But Microsoft and AWS don't have the legacy of typewriters and things that IBM has. So IBM's got to accelerate that vision. And with all the legacy IBM currently has, that's going to be a challenge. But if they bring in the right people and they're open to change, and we're back to this embracing change piece again, then they've absolutely got the wherewithal to do it. To Jay's point, they've got the patents to do it. I mean, they've got one of the best AIs on the planet that they could absolutely monetize. I'd love to have access to that thing at $9,000 a month. You know, it'd make a huge difference to the data sets that we're carrying. So I think the first thing is you've got to be able to see where everything is. You've got to be able to somehow manage the influencers that are coming on board and the services partners that don't actually transact financially with you or your channel. So there's this visibility piece. And I know, our part of the tech stack is we're coming from the product and services and cloud consumption, the actual physical part of the supply chain. Others are coming at it from a lot higher up. But really, visibility is number one. And I can't tell you one manufacturer that we've approached and then successfully onboarded have had any of that visibility up to date. So they don't know what they're missing out on because they just don't know what they've got.
I'm going to move over quick because it's just occurred to me that some of the people who watch our channel may be sitting there going, what do they mean by ecosystem? We mean by, let me quickly define it. What the ecosystem, it's an ecosystem of influences in the change. Jay refers to it in his research as the channel is no longer linear. What we mean by that is the vendor. It used to be vendor, distributor, reseller, and customer, but now it's not. It's just a pool of people informing a decision that the end customer makes to transform. The vendor creates the textile. The distributor opportunity that we're talking about right now is in automation and of the transformation opportunity. In particular, the prime contract is still there to design and deliver on customer success and using technology. We have this massive category that Jay tracks. The channel SaaS channel, the channel software players, let's call it 500 by next year. They provide the tools to do it, all right, which is essential. And incidentally, there is a lot of pressure on those companies to say, well, if the traditional channel's not doing it, why don't you become the SaaS? And why don't you hold title on all this stuff? And that starts to talk to a new layer in the influencer stack. You've also got what I keep talking about, the big six accounting firms who are coming in from a risk point of view and influencing that. The VCs and the PEs are basically saying, I need operational efficiency, and as all this changes, and I want it. So they're influencing from that. It's non-linear. It's all over the place. How about we talk about who's winning in terms of the influencer? Who's winning from a vendor? Who's winning from a distributor, and who's winning from a traditional vendor, traditional distributor, and a traditional prime contractor in being able to, they've already made this transition. Don't have to talk about names. We can be generic, but it gives our viewers and our listeners an idea of this is happening and how to potentially do it. Jay, I'll start with you, mate.
Yeah, so let me tell a story. It's an ecosystem story, and it's a story that a Wall Street banker would tell. And you've probably never heard the story said this way. Because if I ask you the question, who's going to become the next $1 trillion tech company? You may know that Apple and Microsoft and Amazon and Google and Facebook have already achieved trillion. Some of them have achieved $2 trillion now. So the question is, who's going to be next? Who's the $6 trillion company? Is it going to be Dell? Is it going to be IBM? Is it going to be Cisco? As you go down who's going to be next?
Tesla.
And I'm going to tell you, actually, they're not. Because there's 365 kinds of cars, and in all the major car companies now have announced electric by 2035, some of them by 2030. They're just going to become, the Apple
Another
of
one.
our industry,
Another
and
one.
Apple's coming in too.
Yeah.
So I probably start removing your Tesla investments at the moment, which a lot of people. Here's the story I want to tell. Salesforce is going to become the next $1 trillion company, and here's exactly why. Obviously, they won the CRM battle. They've added clouds. They've added M&A. Today, they're at 25 billion. They were the first company to come out with a multiplier. For every dollar of Salesforce, there's $4.65 of downstream software, hardware, and services that gets added. So there's an ecosystem, and if Mark Benioff stands up, he always multiplies his revenue by 5 to make himself sound bigger than Oracle. So they won their market. They got recognition for winning their market. They became the most predictable financial company in the history of capitalism. For 20 straight years, every quarter, they grew 30% year on year, like clockwork. If they weren't going to make it organically, they went and made an acquisition.
Yep.
From Tableau to Slack, all the way down the list. Here's a company that, from a banking perspective, is a lock. So now they're at 25. They've announced they're going to get to 50 in 4 years. How are they going to do it? By hook or by crook. They're going to acquire and organically grow. And they're also bringing on 250,000 new partners in the ecosystem. They've gone a step further and said, we don't want any transacting partners. There's a reason for this. We want every dollar to go to the app exchange. So we want influencers and we want retention partners. We don't want anybody in the middle. We don't want distribution. We don't want anybody involved. So that announcement. Now they come and they become a $50 billion company. Today, on the app exchange, a customer will buy an average of 6 other products, and they tax those products at 15%, like Apple charges the New York Times, like Microsoft, like Facebook. As a platform company, you can do federal government taxation. So today, the idea is there's an additional dollar for every Salesforce dollar that they can tax at 15%. 5 years from now, the taxation, the multiplier, will be $5.80, hardware, software, and services, distributing bits, atoms, and services through their marketplace. They own the fund. They're not just going to sell customers $100,000 for the product. They're going to sell them $580,000 for the solution. In that deal, if you multiply $5.80 by 15%, they go from a $50 billion company to a $93 billion company literally overnight by taxing the ecosystem. Why is Apple a $2 trillion company? On linear iPhone sales? No. Fitness Plus, Apple Plus, News Plus, they got 26 pluses now.
Yep.
Everyone's watching services.
Taxing the ecosystem.
When Salesforce taxes the ecosystem, they get to 93 billion. They're going to get the 10-time multiplier. 5 years from now, Salesforce is becoming a $1 trillion valued company, surpassing. Today, they're valued higher than Oracle. And somebody thought that it'd be a good idea to put a $25 billion SaaS company and kick off ExxonMobil from the Dow 30. Every financial person in the world looks at the Dow to see how the economy is doing. And somehow there's a small little SaaS company there. There's no one in Wall Street that doesn't think that they've built the roadmap to get to $1 trillion.
Yeah.
Why did IBM put $1 billion last week on the ecosystem? To get back onto the tracks here and to start figuring out the ecosystem and the taxation necessary to get to $1 trillion valuation, maybe faster than Salesforce can. This is where it all is. There's 3 pillars. It's an ecosystem, the 250,000 partners. It's a marketplace where all the money changes hands and all the payments and all the whatever you want to participate in. And it's taxation.
Yep.
Those 3 elements are what the 5 companies today have and what everyone competing to get into the club is going to need. iasset, by the way, is going to deliver the actual atoms base of the business, the assets, the infrastructure, the renewals, all of the connective tissue. I think that you'll either be acquired or you'll sell your services to those 20 winning marketplaces.
Yep.
And who are the distributors of the future? These digital connective tissue marketplaces that have a hardware element that you're going to manage for them, a software that they're going to tax the heck out of, and services, a 5-time multiplier, that is how they double their revenue. That's it.
Yeah,
That's
Jay,
the ecosystem story.
Jay, Scott will come in now because this is a very familiar and conversation, one that we're having with a lot of people at the moment, in the context of, are you competing with us or are you helping us? And so many SaaS companies, and I'll take it right back down to what you were talking about with Salesforce as well. Are they competing or are they helping? Well, neither. Are you helping yourself? These are tools that are, and you explained it very, very well. These are tools that help you operate the way you need to operate in the position that you operate in the ecosystem and understand your value and deliver on that value. And you're not going to do it alone, and you need to be in partnership. So when people say, I'll do it myself, well, Salesforce has already proven that you don't do it yourself. All right. And Apple have proven that you don't do it yourself. And every major tech organization has proven that you don't do it yourself. So if you want to build things that execute on the ecosystem rather than build tentacles into what already exists and operate efficiently and add value there, you will lose. You will lose out to these players. I absolutely agree. But I don't believe that it's dead, because it's just a matter of us doing a better job getting everyone to understand. And sometimes you've got to put the fear of whatever into them to get them to understand that. Scott, can you share what I've been talking about from a practical point of view? Don't mention any names, but from a practical point of view, what you're seeing in terms of our customers making that successful transition and operating in the market the way Jay has so perfectly put it?
Well, I think there's a couple of points. I would clarify again, because I'm kind of the operational guy. The ecosystem, when we're talking about ecosystems, I see the market as a whole lot of lily pads sitting in a pond, and they're all isolated silos of data, and they've all got a relationship or a connecting index, if you want, between all of those players, whether it's an influencer, a channel partner, a distributor, or a vendor, whatever it is. But it cohesively needs to connect. And the problem with history is everyone wants to do it for themselves, which I understand because they want competitive advantage. But what they're not getting is today's market is not siloed competitive advantage. You need influencers or channel partners or whoever it is to actually fully bolt into your offering. This has to be one delivery mechanism, one sell, one everything, rather than, you know, I've got this and I can do Cisco a little bit better and I've got a couple of engineers, etc. You've got to join all these dots together to give this single pane of glass. And underlying that, you've got this transition going on between CapEx into OpEx consumption pieces. So again, my thing is, our customers, when you expose install base to our customers, and you know, we get some pretty ratty data uploaded initially, but when you expose that to them, that's the first time they've ever seen the install base. It's created all sorts of opportunities that they've never seen before. Now it's how do they move it from this state to the consumption state, or how do I integrate into other influencer networks to make this even more powerful?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, this is gold. I just hope that everyone just takes the time to really listen to this 3 times and get to understand it. But if you don't and you don't have time, what I'll do is,
I think Jay's pretty consistent. I hear his message all the time.
we don't have a lot of time left, so I want to do this. I really do want to just give our viewers and our ecosystem extreme value right now, and I'll bring it back to, are we doing enough? I'm going to ask you both this question. I'll start with you, Scott. What's the 3-point business plan, whether you're a vendor, a distributor, or a prime contractor in the traditional sense? You need to move to this new wave of massive opportunity. Let's just call it this massive opportunity, and you have to move towards it. You have to pivot towards it. You've got to leave everything else behind. What's the 3-point business plan? And Jay, I will ask you as well, what's the 3-point business plan? But Scott, let me start with you. What's the 3-point business plan if you're either of those 3 traditional entities?
Well, so first up, accept what you've got today. The second part of the business plan is trap every bit of data that is currently flowing around the network somewhere. Just trap it, because it's going to take you a while to work out what to do with it. But lots of people, and distributors especially, are really bad at capturing all that point of sale data that is flowing through their network. Then adapt your systems, whether it's iasset.com or you make your Excel macros work even better. you need to then go and remarket to you the value back to your partners, whether it's vendor or reseller. If you're down in the reseller space, you need to be more adept at the services and influencing part that Jay talks about, because if the transactional piece is going away to these marketplaces, you've got to defend your position, which is the prime advisor to that end customer relationship. And, as a manufacturer, if you haven't moved everything to cloud, or at least offering a consumption part of your tech stack, then you're already behind the eight ball. I mean, how long have we been talking about cloud consumption? It is bureau computing of the 80s. It's just we've got color screens now.
Essentially. Thank you, buddy. Jay, what's your 3-point business plan?
Yeah, simple. Number one is you always start with your customer. Get obsessed over your customer's journey now that never ends. It renews every 30 days forever. Right from the moment they think they have a problem, how they go through their digital or digital-only journey, how they get to vendor selection, how they move on to renewals. Number two is get obsessed over the routes to market that your customer is evolving to. We think that 17% of them will buy through a marketplace. We think that an increasing number of them are going to be buying through a product-led growth, like a Zoom thing where at 40 minutes you type in your credit card number. We think that direct-to-consumer is going to play a role when the future B2B buyer looks like a consumer. So the Dollar Shave Club or these different type of consumption models. Just get obsessed about how they're going to buy and make sure you're working in 100% of your market TAM. There's obviously going to be a channel, there's going to be distribution, but keep it in line and keep your investments in line with where your customer is. And then number three, get out of the friggin' boardroom after you've thought about those two things and get into the communities where your customer is. What they read, where they go, who they follow is critical. And 99% of the companies, including some of the big ones we mentioned today, it's lost on them the fact that they're not in those communities having conversations. They're not in the social groups. They're not in the magazines. They're not in the associations. They're not in the 150 events. They're not in the vendor communities. They're nowhere to be found. And they think that they're one program away. They think they're one product away or one price point away. The 4 Ps that you learned in college. They're just completely missing the whole point of how the channel works and how vendor selection happens in the channel and how influence happens. And just, get out. And today it's virtual, but soon it'll be back on planes.
Absolutely.
But if you're not in these communities, it's over my shoulder. I've got hundreds of logos of the places that, every one of your partners is in learning today and getting influenced. And most of the vendors are missing in action.
I think a big part of the problem, Jay, is that everyone learnt the 4 Ps in college. It was a right-wing conspiracy theory because product, price, promotion, and place. Where's the freaking customer in that?
Right.
And customer success is everything now. It's taken us like 5 decades to work out that without the customers being successful, we've all got nothing. I will add, well, that was your first point, but I will add a fourth to yours, Jay, and that is don't fight who's being successful. Go and align with them. Go and align with them because we're all walking each other home here and no one's gotten 100% right yet, and we will get it all right. But align rather than just argue. And I know you get a lot of hate mail, because you're trying to tell people the truth and they don't want to hear the truth, which is just a nonsense. And I do thank you again, mate. I hope I've covered your 10 predictions in a practical way. If I have missed anything out, please go for it now and then we'll close up.
Yeah, my closing comment in the digital connective tissue of all of this, something that's changed in the last 60 days, 2 words, enterprise credits. When there's 1 million software companies, when there's over 1 million emerging tech companies, when there's millions of channel partners, the permutations are not something that a distributor or humans can handle. And we're out of the mode now of trying to figure out the 7-layer stack and all the services and everything to make everything work for 35 million customer permutations. What you do now is you just sell them credits. And they can drag down those credits, draw them down by hardware, by software, by services, by whatever they need to solve their problems. If they get to the credit level, you start amplifying those credits and giving them further discounts. The people that offer those credits, the 20 winning marketplaces, those salespeople are paid just as much to sell your product or services as their own.
Absolutely.
Customers, CFOs love it, vendors love it, Partners love it. Everyone loves it. It's the new way for the next decade. And Microsoft, AWS, Google, Salesforce, all of their executive compensation and sales compensation, the quotas on the floor are changing to credits.
Yep.
We're post SKU, we're post product as we look at the next generation of our industry.
That is so huge. That is so huge. It's worth a discussion on itself. And I am now convinced that you two talk behind my back, because you talk this every day.
Well, I know Jay's got to go, but as luck would have it, Jay, we already built that for one of our enterprise class customers, so that end users could buy as many credits as they want and then consume them through whichever partner, and we marry all the money up at the back.
Yeah,
this is why Scott should be Canadian, because he's always skating to where the puck is going to be.
Well, Australian Canadian, we're not that different.
That's true. You guys
it's just bears versus snakes.
There's another 1 hour conversation.
Yeah.
Anyway,
thanks,
guys, thank you very, very much again. That was really powerful. Can't wait to do this again. Wonderful to have you back on the channel. I hope I did justice to your predictions, Jay. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Till next time, be blessed, be safe, and see you then. Cheers.
All right. Take care.